Liv, welcome to the Smoke Trail.
Yes. Yay. Thank you for having me here.
You're my first repeat guest.
I feel so honored. I really do.
Oh, the honor's all mine. I'm super excited to check in. I thought we had a great conversation earlier in the year, and obviously your book was coming out then, and now it's actually out.
It's here. I did it. I birthed the book. It took 2 years. It was a big baby. But we did it. I'm excited to have it out in the world.
That's awesome. Well, I want let's definitely we'll spend some time talking about that because it's I read it. I read an early draft and loved it, and think you're hitting all the right notes. But love to talk more and what you want to highlight about it, and just generally on your journey because you launched more than a book. You have a platform, you've got a mobile app, you've got a like kind of a community you're building, which I think is super exciting, and it's more than just a single book. Read it and put it down.
Yeah. So I had this idea to essentially share how to be human medicine for yourself and so that we can be human medicine for others. And I think that I recognize that in my coaching practice, that was what I was doing my best to do. So every day during my own morning practice, I'm filling up my cup so I can give from the overflow, and then teaching people how to be human medicine for themselves until they can do it on their own. And part of what I was recognizing was essentially some themes every time I coached a client, which is always people would come with a different story, a different problem, a different challenge, but the answers were often very much the same. So they came down to these 7 spiritual principles that I talk in the book about, which is called spiritual heartbeat, the ultimate requirement for success. So the idea wasn't actually at first to write a book, if I'm honest. It was just to say, hey, I have this understanding about how to be human medicine for yourself so that we can do that for the world and each other. And let's go do this together. I want to create a community. I want to create a movement around this. I want to teach people how to do this very well so that we can access also different and higher levels of consciousness that give us essentially superpowers like telepathy and downloads and divine wisdom that we won't have if we're working on different levels of consciousness. And then when I started talking to people about this, I recognized that it was not landing, if I'm honest. It wasn't landing for people because they were feeling like there were some foundational principles that they needed to understand before going into something like connecting to divine wisdom. And
Yeah.
so there was this foundation of knowledge I wanted to put together, and then it just ended up being a book. I thought I was going to create a Substack like you smoke. And I thought I would just, or maybe send out some newsletters. And then I would sit down to write, and it just kind of, as you read an early version, there was 480 pages or something of this,
Yeah.
manuscript. I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's not a Substack. Let me just put this in a book and figure out how to publish it and get it to people. So the spiritual heartbeat principles, in my opinion, are this foundation of understanding of how to integrate spiritual intelligence into your everyday, so that you are knowing you have body intelligence, you have emotional intelligence, you have an intellect, and you have spiritual intelligence. And when you've integrated all 4 of these, now we have a really beautiful foundation. I think of it like a bottom of a triangle, like the logo of Be Human Medicine, where that's the spiritual heartbeat principles are the foundation. And then above that, it's okay, now you can be human medicine to yourself. Okay, and now you can be it for other people as well. And now for the world is at the top of that triangle. But
Yeah.
until we have that foundation, there's no hope for that. So my hope in writing this book is to give people those foundational tools to apply principles like radical living, trust, faith, divine wisdom, intuition. We hear about these words all the time, but how do we actually apply them into our everyday life? That's my hope with writing this book.
Yeah, and the thing that I mean, it all resonated with me, but I think what you say is the foundation, and it's, lots of people get excited about, well, I want to help these people, or I want to do this in the world, or I want to do this, and or even as close as your family, and you really aren't in a position to do that, to really be there and be present and be helpful to everyone else, unless you establish the foundation with yourself and your higher self. And I think that's, it's core.
Yeah, and people, I know you speak to so many leaders and visionaries and CEOs, executives. There's and I know you teach about this and lecture about this as well. There's a space here that I see that more and more people are recognizing the importance of spiritual intelligence so that they can cultivate better relationships with their family, their friends, their team, and then they can, again, at that top of the triangle, create the impact in the world that they want. And it's really been fun to be able to talk about this with people in this way where they're so receptive to it. I think I'm seeing more and more people where they know I teach this, so that's why they give me a call, where usually I'm like, okay, they don't know what they're going to get. We'll just say yes to this coaching engagement, and then I'll let them know it's really about spirituality later. But they're actually just coming in now saying, I know I need to be a better leader. I know I need to cultivate practices to be comfortable in my own skin and trust myself and have confidence and listen to my intuition and not second guess. And so they're already coming with that, which to me makes me very hopeful for the future when I see household names, visionaries, leaders, CEOs coming in with that. It's not, the level of question is so much better than I've seen it ever before, where usually it's, how do I get my team to work better? Or how do I make this happen so I can go get this thing? And people are seeing that that's not how it works more and more, which is really fun for me as a coach.
Yeah, that's great. And I use your kind of core teaching, which is that humans are medicine for each other all the time now. And I realized, like, I got that from your our first talk, but it
Yay.
really is true, and it's the same with your teams or your family or anyone else you deal with. But whatever we say, the words are one thing, but the meaning and the underlying energy that is being expressed is, you can't fake it. If you're wounded and you've got all kinds of issues that you haven't addressed, and you're trying to lead your team, or you're trying to tell your family what they should be doing, or whatever, your friend trying to help them, you're not really, I mean, you can say the right words, but the energetic meaning of that, the transmission of it, isn't truthful if you haven't resolved your own stuff. And when you're aligned with your higher self, when you've dealt with whatever things you've had to deal with, that comes through in the communication beyond the words.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that, when you're trying to put a tiny little band-aid on this huge gushing wound, people feel it. Essentially, your energy is not clean, is essentially what I'm hearing you say, and you can't hide it. And I do think that there might have been a time in history where you could hide it, like that level of leadership, that level of being a husband, a wife, an adult child, whatever position you're in at life would suffice. And I don't think it cuts it anymore. We're being asked to do something different now. And part of that is being able to allow the people in your life to be your mirrors, especially the people you live with and you talk to often, where it's not maybe a transactional relationship in any sort of way. And when the people in your life are triggering you in some way, or they're saying, hey, you're being like this, to believe them. They might not be correct, but to say, well, what's my work here? What am I not willing to look at or to see or believe right now because I didn't like how they told me that, or they need to be doing better too, or whatever it is that we do to defend ourselves. And I think that to extend on what you're sharing, the people in our lives can be our greatest teachers, as they say, if we are willing to believe that they are being a mirror for how we are being. And so when there is a dust up, as some of my clients call it, or a little stickiness in those relationships, we get to just look at it and then see what our side of the street requires. As you know, I built a assessment with some professors at Brown University called the spiritual heartbeat assessment, which allows people to, my hope, take it. They can take it on their own. They can take it about a specific challenge they're facing. So you can think about, oh, this is what I'm going through right now that feels a little sticky. Let me think about that challenge while I take this quiz. And then also to take it with people in their lives that they trust. So, hey, my husband's name is Joe. I'm going to answer this to this question. Do you see me like that? And to be willing to hear, no, that's not how I see you. I actually see you responding like this, and
Yeah.
being willing to get that feedback from the people you love as well. So there's these three ways to take this assessment. And what I'm finding, I get these emails every day. People are sharing with me their results, and we're going back and forth, and they're sharing with me how they took the assessment, or about what challenge they were facing. And it's really at the end of it to do our best to sort out where are the gaps in our spiritual intelligence and in our level of consciousness, so that we can say, oh, maybe I am totally accepting this challenge. So I'm doing radical living just great, but it's that I am not empowered. I don't feel empowered in this situation, and now I can use the tools of empowerment to essentially turn that desire into reality, or grow and change in a certain way. So that's I think the best way for us to know if we're faking it or not is to get feedback from the
Yeah.
people around you and be willing to hear what they have to say. And it's amazing what they'll say. They'll really tell you. They can't wait to tell you. They're just waiting to say, hey, if you can say to somebody, what makes it hard for me what makes it hard for you to love me in the way that I want to be loved, I think is one of the best questions you can ask people. And being willing to hear what they have to say. How is it hard for me? How is it hard for you to love me? What am I doing that's making it hard for you? And how am I showing up? What could I be doing better? And all of those are things we can ask our children. We can be asking our partners. We can be asking people on our team, people we work with. And if you can find 3 to 5 people that can be actually honest with you and not just kissing your ass, then you can actually grow in incredible ways.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I took the quiz, and I thought it was cool. And you said that not to talk about me and my results, but like you said, that I was like unusual in the results, I guess.
Well,
But
I'm going to say this for everybody. You had the highest score that like by far, that I've ever seen for the assessment so far. And we spoke about this a couple months ago too.
yeah,
You took it, and still
yeah.
no one has passed your score. So yeah, it's
Well, so it regardless of the spiritual journey, I still have that ego mind competitive strain in me that's part of my personality DNA. So like, yay, I'm happy to hear that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
I was actually happy to see the ego still there a little bit, right? I was like, oh, good, he still has an ego. He's proud of himself. He's
yeah,
like, yes,
I just don't take it very seriously.
yeah, of course.
So it's a part of my personality. I mean, you realize that you know as we're children, and as we grow, we have various levels of trauma and things that create separation, and those things that create separation, then we have to compensate for.
Hmm.
And so the things that were my biggest traumas, I compensated for, and that's part of who my personality is, right? So I wasn't heard, People wouldn't listen, the adults wouldn't listen, and I knew what was happening, and that no one would listen. So now I have a podcast and I speak, and but that's part of the personality that I gain those abilities because of the reaction to the separation. And now in a spiritual journey, you don't lose those abilities. You just have them completely aligned with your higher purpose, right? So it's actually that's the way it works. Consciousness learns by creating these rifts and separation, and then we figure out in our independent existence how to compensate and how to build around those. And then as we get alignment again, we still have all those skills we learned, right? The ability to communicate and to speak and to do all the things that I've learned as a individual human don't go away just because I'm now connected to a higher source.
Yeah. So, you're not dismissing your personality or what I would call your humanness or making it bad, right? And so what I would call that the healthy ego.
Yeah.
You're going to keep your healthy ego and knowing that you're going to have a personality, you're going to have things that are your preference or not your preference, and anything that is in the shadow side or of the saboteurs, the patterns, the limited beliefs. It's not so much about making them go away, in my opinion. And maybe that's somebody somewhere, I'm not sure. I've never met that person. It's more of, I know that that is a part of me. And what do I want to make of that? So here's the
Yeah.
roots of me. So I wonder what branch and what fruit will grow from that. And I think that what I see you do so well, Smoke, if I can speak about you a little bit, is that you actually have problems and challenges just like everybody else. But what you have done is just you're not upset about them anymore. You've just accepted them and said, I'm going to work with what I've got to build something beautiful for myself. And you've been able to turn that into a gift or an opportunity or an offering for yourself or somebody else. And that is human medicine in action. So I just you're an inspiration to me. I know to many people because of your ability to do that so well. And so not so well to know how to do it, because that's one thing, but to do it consistently enough so it's embodied as a way of
Yeah,
being.
well, thank you. And I think that's the difference between knowing and doing, the difference between aspiring to something and being it, right? So, and I think it goes back to, I mean, as a kid, I was in the Boy Scouts. I got my Eagle Scout. I did different things. I learned from a very tough teacher. Who was my stepfather at the time. Hard work. He was he's a mason and a landscaping guy, and for a number of years, I was a slave laborer there. But it was, grueling 10, 12-hour days, like laying block, building waterfalls, moving trees. And that I learned a lot from that. And then as a wrestler, I mean, in high school and college, there's not many sports that have that level of discipline. So fast forward, spiritual journey, I had some of those skills, right? I applied them in different parts of my life, but when I focused on once I understood what was required, I'm like, oh, okay, that's just like this. So if I had to make make weight for wrestling, I mean, there's not many things as a young person harder than not eating, right? And having the discipline to work out, and even though you're hungry, and still go to school and make your weight class, and so those disciplines are part of my, like me, that's part of my DNA applied to spiritual learning, alignment, the things that I found now to be much more important. It's really worked, right? So it is about consistency, and it's not, you go to a retreat and you learn all this stuff, and then you're all of a sudden enlightened. No, it's what do you do every day? How are you in, when you get a coffee at the coffee shop and you're in line and there's a delay, and and you're interacting with people, and are you kind at that moment? as well as, when things are going great, right? It's consistency. That's what I like. I don't know if you ever did the Course of Miracles, but the Course of Miracles workbook,
Yeah.
which calibrates at 600 on Hawkins scale. One of the reasons it's so powerful is it's every day for a year, a different, a different meditation, a different exercise. And I think one of one of the reasons it's so powerful is you do it every day for a year.
Yeah.
Anything you do every day for a year is going to have an impact,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
It used to be, drinking for sport, but when I shifted to other things, it has an impact. And so if you do something every day, I couldn't recommend more the Course of Miracles, because it really does. If you do it and you actually do it for a whole year, which I did, I mean, it can't help but produce positive results.
Yes, I love that. I'm on round 2 of that actually right now, this year. So I have a couple more weeks left of the year. I did it in my 20s or something in college, and so it's been a while. So I decided to do it again this year. So it's so funny
Yeah.
that you bring that up. And I'm doing it actually because, and maybe we'll collaborate on this too, Smoke, someday. I have a couple of people that I think we could make something quite wonderful, but I know I'm not meant to just do it by myself. So we'll talk about this if you'd like to join. But part of this platform for the Be Human Medicine app that in the community I'm building is to take somebody through a 365-day practice of things that they'll do every single day of the year to create the best year of their life and raise their level of consciousness so that they are able to choose consciousness and commit to consciousness in a different way than they would have been in their patterns before. And I think that for most of us, including me, I'm raising my hand, we do need to be doing this in community. I'm building this community space because I need it too. I'm building it because if I know I need it, we all need it. Yes, I've been doing the Course of Miracle workbook, but how beautiful if I was doing something that was something I built with community. I built with community
Yeah.
and in real time together, and with community at the same time. I think that can be even more powerful. And so you're talking about some really interesting things here about what I call cross training as well. You are an athlete, you learn discipline, you say, okay, I'm going to eat this, drink this, do that, so I can, do well at my match. And then to apply that to what's relatable for what you're wanting now, which is like, how can I apply and cross train that same discipline over to my spiritual practice? And recognizing that it's the same skill set. And so that's what I would call building your muscle of pride. So being able to show up for something, even though maybe you don't want to or you're tired. Like I know you meditate for at least 45 minutes every morning. And I'm sure there's mornings where you're like, oh, I just want to hang out in bed with Anitra and just chill, whatever, with my dog, or I want to do something else today. Oh, this is getting boring, or oh, no, whatever is coming in your head, just like everybody else. But if and when you apply that same discipline and you say, no, this is what I've decided to do. I'm committed to my spirituality, just like you committed to your sport back in the day. That is building your muscle of pride. That is how we are able to be more resilient in our life and have more reverence for life, in my opinion. This is like the jump here. Why do that? Okay, yes, let's do that so that you can be more present on your podcast and you can be a better leader and all of that. But what I actually see that happens, that's the leap for people that they get to be excited about. It's not just about having your day be better. It's actually, and having what you want created and manifestation. Oh, that's wonderful. But what happens is this greater appreciation, I think, for life and a more reverence for life and an honoring of life that you can't access without the discipline and the consistency, and to be that disciple of life, which is where discipline comes from, being a disciple, being a student of. And that is what is needed now, that sense of honoring. I honored myself, and now I can honor everything else. I respected me to show up for me. Now I can go respect others and the world in a different way. That's how we are able to be human medicine. And you're speaking on exactly that map to get there. with that consistency and that cross training and the ability to what I call build your muscle of pride. It's beautiful.
Yeah, agree totally. And I think, look, we are spiritual beings with amnesia in human form, right? So we've got these human bodies and this existence, and um, with the human form, we come with all these, human things, frailties, needs, desires, aversions and attractions, whether it's, food and what eating, or it's just ways to entertain your mind, or sex, is a good example, right? Like, and so, you know, those are all part of the experience, but one of the things that we're here to learn is, how do you master those, right? And how do you master them? You don't master them by just deciding, oh, I'm not gonna I'm gonna just refrain from sex, or I'm gonna not eat this food or that food. I mean, how many diets work very well? Well, it works if you have a commitment and you have the discipline and you do it every day. You do little things every day, and then you're empowered, right? So then you can make choices about whatever it is. We had an experience recently that I won't get into detail because it's not something I want to share, but it was a group setting where there was a lot of uh, let's just say opportunity for temptation, a lot of opportunity for bad behavior, or behavior, low inhibition behavior.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And it was interesting because it felt like a very loving circle, and then it shifted to something that was like not something that I have any interest in, and we had interest. So I'm talking vaguely on it because I don't want to get into it, but it was I wrote a poem about it called "Temptation's Grace,"
oh,
um,
cool.
because it was just a great example of like, oh, well, yeah, if you put yourself in a situation, and this can apply to lots of people. The reason having doing a spiritual group, like, or your community, or doing Course of Miracles together with people, the reason we decide who and where we're going to spend our time with is because the energy of that group is very hard to overcome, right? It's very hard to do your own thing if someone who grew up in a bad neighborhood in poverty, and then ended up in petty crime, and then ended up going to juvenile or jail or something. Their friend group is other criminals, other people that have done these things, and the likelihood of getting out of that and not being sucked into that energy field gets lower and lower over time, right? It happens, but it's like it gets harder and harder.
Yeah,
So we have to make choices about where we allow ourselves to engage. And so
yeah,
if you find yourself in a situation where it's like not the kind of things that you aspire to, remove yourself, get
yeah,
away from it, right? Like the best choice is, how do I get out of this? Like, how do I exit gracefully?
yeah.
And don't put yourself in those situations, because if you hang out with a bunch of hoodlums, you're gonna likelihood of you being hoodlum by accident is very high.
Very high. Yeah. I love that. I mean, I think that we get into situations where the environment is not what we're wanting, and then we can hopefully have the tools to step away and set a boundary or say no or something like that. But I think you're bringing up something super important, which is, in my opinion, part of living empowered, or empowered living, which is, I think of it like that at the base of the triangle for empowerment is a supportive environment. So a supportive environment is essential for us to be able to make empowered decisions. Then we can then have alternative behaviors, so we can choose different ways of being, and then we can have self-compassion around our humanness. We can lean into curiosity around what gets to happen, and then building up that, with all of that, building up that self-awareness about what works and what doesn't as we test, tweak, and polish and continue to change and grow. So I do think that most of us might have some people in our lives that are supportive to our growth and personal development. But really, Smoke, what I see is that I don't know if everyone's jumped in the deep end on this. And I think that what I mean by that is somebody could even be going to see a coach or therapy or be listening to your podcast or reading your poems and be super into it. But they're not necessarily reflecting on how they want that to be different in their own environment, or maybe even talking about it with their communities enough to then actually be able to apply it as consistently as needed. And it can be, I'll share with your listeners, just a simple thing as if you are reading something or inspired by something, to go share that with the people in your life that you trust and love, to say, hey, this is what I learned today. This is what I'm working on. Do you want to be up to this with me? And that invitation to, like I said before, let them be your mirrors. Like, hey, do you want to be my accountability buddy? And like, how am I being these days? How do you see me as a friend, a parent, or a spouse, something? But to actually create that new environment and then also be able to attract new people into your life to create that supportive environment. Yes, we can join a group and they can hop on, be a part of my community, but even that can be very separate. So part of what I'm like to share with people is to say, you get to do this not just on retreat, not just in my community, but actually who in your life do you already have that you can do this with as well in your day-to-day life? That's accessible friendships, accessible people in your life, not just on the internet, not just on Zoom, on a call or something, or on your phone. Because that experience, like you said, on retreat is super powerful. And then how can we integrate it into our everyday? And that's really quite amazing when we can find those supportive environments. And I'm saying that knowing I have not always had supportive environments to flourish, and really making a conscious decision to say, I'm going to surround myself with different people so that I can, and then invite people that are currently in my circle to let them know what I'm up to, has been very helpful to take those bigger leaps that I've taken in my life.
Yeah, that's right. And that's, again, we're kind of saying the same thing, but in different terminology, but in different ways. But it's the consistency of what we do when no one's watching, when we're alone. Um, do we listen to uplifting podcasts and say that's great, or read great books, and then go back to our habits where you're self-sabotaging or doing things that are not helpful, or do we go sit in front of a television and watch a bunch of junk that's most of the stuff out there is terrible. It's really, really bad. It's negative energy. It calibrates low levels, and it's not, and so when you watch junk and you listen to junk, you're programming yourself. You're programming your subconscious. Even if you think, oh, I'm just relaxing on TV watching the stupid show. I used to watch all the action movies and violent stuff, and I loved them. And I realized, like, your brain, your subconscious doesn't know the difference between a murder on a movie and a murder in person. And so you're desensitizing and you're programming your subconscious with whatever you're allowing to come in, which is, one of the practices that I have found helpful, and it's something that I try to do every day, is, even when you've really healed, you're clear, you're good, you're doing a lot of the right things, inadvertently you're absorbing whatever you're around. And so if I travel, especially, and I go through an airport and they've got CNN blaring on the TV, and I'm getting something to eat, at the restaurant, and then they have 5 pharmaceutical ads. Those ads are basically programming you to have that disease. They're talking about the cure, but the whole point is they're talking about the disease. And so you listen to all these things, and you're like, and you're basically programming yourself to manifest those diseases when you listen to those ads. And so you have to clear yourself of it. And it's as simple as a declarative statement. And it seems so simple, but I'm an infinite being. I'm only subject to what I hold in mind. Anything that I absorbed by accident, anything that came to me throughout my travels today that's negative, that's untrue, I remove from my field. I disavow them, send them back to sender, cleanse it. Just that little statement sounds silly, but it really does work. And so you're basically reprogramming yourself and saying, clean the slate every day.
I love that. That is so beautiful. I don't think that's crazy at all. I think that's super powerful. I would call that honoring your sensitivity. And we get to honor our sensitivity because there is so much being digested. So every single thing I see, I have to digest it just like everything I eat, it needs to go through my system. And so I have a similar practice. I'm not as verbal, I think, as you. So I have a more somatic practice. But it was so funny you were doing this as you were talking, you were waving your hands up and down. So I literally just wipe myself off. Like it's
Yeah.
like I'm literally I just do this movement and I'm just like doing this in my energy field and I'm washing that
Yeah.
off and just letting it like anything that doesn't belong to me, I release. Like thank you for helping me release anything that is not mine to carry. And just like really like you can kind of feel it where you're holding it on your body.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel it in my jaw, if I just saw an ad that I came across or something, or even just after a really busy car ride, just going to the East Bay to see from San Francisco to the East Bay to see my in-laws.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just feels chaotic and there's all these AI billboards and I'm like, I don't even know what half of these mean. And there's just like honking and it's loud. And then you got the water and it can feel like a lot if you're a sensitive person. And so to honor that, I think is, such a ways to pour into you to say, hey, I respect myself enough to say, hey, that was a tough moment. I don't know what I took on, but there was something and I can just acknowledge it and clear my energy field again. It's reminding me, and I'm curious because I don't remember what you were saying, but I saw an Instagram something of you, and I think you were in Times Square and you
Yeah.
were talking
Yeah.
about like the busyness around, and I know that you're interviewing me here, but I'm curious if you can share a little bit about what you were saying because I'm thinking you were like, hey, can you regulate no matter what? Is what I was
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of
So
getting
it
at.
was funny. I was in New York for a family office event that I went I am part of, and and so I had 3 days in like literally Times Square. Now I was at the Edition
Mhm.
Hotel, which is like its own little oasis.
Oh yeah,
As soon as you walk through the lot, you get in the elevator and you go up. You're like,
yeah,
it's not
so
like being at
beautiful.
Times Square. But when you walk out the door, you're in Times Square and it's
Yeah,
just mayhem.
yeah.
And I obviously live in Sedona, and I choose the environment where I spend most of my time, which is on a trail, hanging out by these rocks. And we went to the stupa yesterday. My dad was visiting, and did a little meditation. Just went up there. It's the only stupa in Arizona, here in Sedona, Buddhist stupa, and it's beautiful. The Peace Park.
Wow.
But anyway, so that's where I want to be.
Yeah, yeah.
And but I was in New York, and I was like, okay, well, I'm in this great place because I've done a lot of this work, and I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm super calm and I'm not reacting to stuff. I wonder if I can walk around Times Square. And I literally walked around for a couple hours just observing, right? Just like being a witness and seeing the mayhem and seeing families, upset and arguing, and these people rushing to this and that, and
Yeah,
all these people trying to buy stuff, and the people, the homeless on the street, and just it is not a relaxing environment. And but I just walked around like in peace for a couple hours, and then I recorded that thing and just said, yeah, I mean, you can stay in that mindset no matter where you are in any situation. It helps to build a reserve, so you got, it would be hard to live in Times Square all the time, but
yeah.
it's doable. Like wherever you are, you can have inner peace and just go into the mayhem, and it is what it is, but it doesn't have to bother you.
Yeah, yeah. It's so good. I love that. I thought that was such a powerful just a quick I know you did it on a whim and it wasn't like that thought out. You're just like, hey, I'm here in Times Square. This is something you can apply to your life. And I think it just gives us all permission to really take ownership of our own nervous system and not get so pulled by the things that are around us and stay in that sense, like you said, observation as a witnesser. And like I can just go witness what's going on, knowing that I'm safe. I'm okay. I have built up my reserves. I'm love, and I can continue to be that love while I walk around, even if it's chaotic. And I think that for me, as a sensitive being, takes a lot of intention. I
Yeah.
have to choose that when I go to even as something as simple as a YPO event. I'm like, okay, let me stay in my center and stay grounded. And it might be loud, or people might be talking over people, and everyone has, and I'm just staying in my own center or finding my center
Yeah.
wherever I go.
Yeah, and you and I when I remember to do this, it always is helpful. But I mean, you can basically envision a golden white ball of light coming out from your heart around you, and just be like, envision this surrounding you as a protective before you enter a party or a setting or a meeting or whatever. You can kind of envision that ahead of time intentionally and say, this is here to protect me. Now I'm going into this, whatever it is, but I've got that around me at all times.
Yeah.
And again, that sounds a little wacky maybe to some people, but it really does work. It's kind of the preventative, protecting yourself. And then after the cleansing, the like, I mean, I another routine, almost every day I take a Dead Sea salt bath
Mm-hmm.
and intentionally, and it's about cleansing. It's just another way to cleanse things. And, these little things like it really does make a difference. And if you can envision the energy of it, you may not see it. Some people can see it, but you just envision like clear or like golden white light cleansing yourself, coming from the sun, coming down into your body, cleansing it, going down to the earth. Because the earth is here, we're all children of the earth, and the earth can absorb really anything that is around. So if you can ground yourself barefoot on the grass on the ground is the best, right? But or on the beach or wherever you are. But just even just a short period of time, grounding yourself, the earth will absorb a lot of this stuff for us.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
really does work.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that all of these practices that we're sharing today and, talking about together is really about recognizing that all of these tools work. It's just about applying them and deciding and testing them out for ourselves, depending on the chapter or season of our life. So we're not just around going around all day trying to like do tools, and we
Yeah,
can actually just like live as well. But there's an opportunity, I think, for people to test, tweak, and polish what works. And so just to give somebody another analogy of when I do is just recognizing that I am able to think about a cord going from me to the center of the earth to stay grounded. And that is super helpful if you feel what I call hummingbird energy in the book. Like when
yeah,
you're feeling like you're a little like, and you're like, hi, especially as a woman in the world, maybe we feel like we have to smile more or like be on or be pretty or be something. I'm not sure if that's everybody, but there's a flighty hummingbird energy I can get into. And what I like to and have the analogy is I'm going to drop into what I call elephant energy, which is very strong and grounded. And when I do that, those symbols help me of like what animal am I being right now? And then being able to drop into I am connected to the center of the earth and feeling
yeah,
that those cords all the way down to the center with a plaque in the middle with my name written on it, like I belong here. That is Mother Earth is holding me and she's
yeah,
got me. And
yeah.
anything
No,
I can't handle, she
I
will
really
handle.
like that elephant energy and the hummingbird analogy. And since our last talk in my own practice, so I realized that a lot of my practice was cerebral. It was very much, third eye, and it was meditation. It was very much like up here. And since then, I've added a bunch of like embodiment stuff
Yes.
that have been really helpful to me because, like just being in your feet, not noticing your feet, actually being in your feet, and then breathing in through your head, and breathing at a level where you're not lifting yourself up from your feet, right? So
Hmm.
being in your body, being in your hips, being in your, all these different, but that was like, whoa, like that was a whole different experience to be embodied at that level. Because I think we don't occupy our bodies a lot. I think we, as children at some point with trauma and things, you kind of separate and you create a protection, and we don't even realize that we're actually not really embodying ourselves. And I think that's
Yes.
that elephant energy that you speak of.
Yeah, another way to just do it a simple thing if you're not like wiping yourself down, like you're just around people and you don't want to, do some tapping, or there's lots of things that like will make you look kind of odd in a group setting,
Yeah,
especially for business. But I'll share with your listeners, just checking your pulse. Like you can literally just put your hand on your wrist
yeah,
and feeling your heartbeat. Like you can put your hand on your heart, but even that might feel a little woo for some people, like if they're in a business meeting. But it's very subtle to just rest your hands and find your pulse on your wrist. And you're just recognizing, wow, there's my heartbeat. Like,
yeah,
can I be in tune with my heartbeat? Can I come back and just breathe? My heart is breathing. Like, let my heart breathe. And not just like, oh, I'm breathing up here and it's all about the collarbone still, but just to drop it down and saying, oh, wow, let me just feel my heart breathing is such a grounding practice as well. And when we can do that in real time, when we feel ourselves dysregulated, where something's coming on, it feels a little bit challenging to come back to that. Like, let me just check in with my heartbeat, what I call my spiritual heartbeat, which is I'm connecting not just with my physical heartbeat, but my energetic heartbeat, my sense of self, but that self connected to everything else that I know and don't know. And that is how we feel superhuman in moments where we might get insecure or feel like we have to overcompensate and then be something we're not, and hide the fact that we're having a hard time. And that's, what you called it in the beginning of the episode, faking it, essentially.
right.
And so being able to really tap into our authentic selves is an embodied practice. And that's one of the spiritual heartbeat principles is authentic living. Well, how do you
Yeah,
do that? Well, you have to include your body. We
yeah,
can't stay up here in the intellect. We have to be able to drop it down to the heart center, to the gut wisdom, to the embodiment of our own being, and learn how to breathe, let our heart breathe, feel, not just feel our feet, but be in our feet, right?
yeah.
I always like
Be
to,
in your feet, be in your
yeah.
knees, be in your hips, be in your pelvis. There's a lot of, this is like the most dense energies, the sacral and down below, you know, and I think a lot of us don't don't do that, don't occupy it, right? So being in that, being comfortable in your own body, really, really powerful.
Yeah, one of the things I'll share with, and maybe your listeners are like, I'm never going to do that, but maybe some of them will, is to, at the end of the day, it can be helpful to give your hip, and you mentioned your hips, because this is a source of a lot of trauma for many of us. It's a source of a lot of like that root chakra, the primal, like I am not safe, I am not loved, protection. And it's an extension too of people where we have really tight jaws. Usually that's an indication of, oh, I have tight hips, something's going on in the root chakra as well. But being able to get some oils and so it can go smoothly, and just massaging your belly and breathing into your belly and making circles around the belly, usually right from right to left, so you can follow the way we digest. And you can even
Mhm.
go down and you can do all these V shapes with the belly and really breathing into the hips in maybe happy baby pose or legs up the wall wide, and allowing yourself to feel vulnerable even in that state, and seeing what memories come up or seeing what happens and not thinking about it, just let it wash through. And don't try to understand, oh, that's because this happened or that's because this happened to me. This is not a thinking game. It's like, I'm just going to let it pass by and it's doing its work. And sometimes I'll even sit on a stability ball, those big round balls that move, and you can just do like little belly dancing moves on it while your
Yeah.
truck stays still. And you can make circles both directions or side to side. And doing this naked actually is very helpful. If you can look in the mirror and just love yourself at the same time, even better. And I know some people, I lose people sometimes when I say that, but I am going to tell people what it takes to love ourselves that fiercely and to stretch naked and to be naked and at least by yourself, and be able to be comfortable to look at your body and massage your body and love it is one of the most healing things we can do, especially around that I'm not safe, I'm not loved because of trauma. And I know we both have similar experiences with that. And it's a gift we can give ourselves that is so accessible. Like you get some oils and you have a mirror, like, and just look at yourself and massage yourself and say, I love you, body, and stretching in ways and moving in ways that you might not move in your everyday because we have to be put together and professional and we got to show up for this and that. But being able to have moments of ritual for yourself to move your body in ways that would be awkward or inappropriate out in the outside world, in your own home, in a safe room, in an environment, is so healing and is embodiment work that I encourage everyone to do at all ages as soon as
Yeah.
possible.
No, like when I go to yoga, like it's like not my natural movements. Like I'm
Right.
not very flexible, and
Mhm.
and but it always like it's like, okay, just sit with it, just do the thing, even do it like whatever way you can do it, you do it, and then at some point it's just like opens up, and so it's definitely powerful. My new friend Kamal Ravikant, who's going to be on the show upcoming, has a book called Love Yourself, and his whole book is all that. He's a very successful venture capital guy, and but he had a big trauma himself and had a company fail and was not happy, and he sat with it and realized like you have to love yourself, and once you do, everything else unfolds in a positive way. So such a good message.
Oh, I love that. I have to meet this person. It sounds, I'll listen to that episode. It's such that is the foundation and all of the ways that, people talk about self-love all the time, but it's really about how is that going to work for you and your lifestyle, right? So that's going to be very different between me and you. I have a young child still in the home, you know, I'm in a different phase of life than you. And I think that sometimes when people listen to somebody talk about how they do it, they're like, well, I can't do that because I'm not smoking. I don't live in the mountains. And that type of
Right.
thinking is so lazy, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
And we get to actually dig a little deeper to be able to say, well, I like this, and this, and this. I wish I can do that. Now, how am I going to make it work in my own life? And how do I get to connect with the best parts of me and the parts of me, the true self of me? Essentially, and take care of all of my parts and myself so that I can feel filled up in my day. And we have to do so much more, I think, now to do that with intention because it's not handed to us. Even our faith and our connection to the divine is not always handed to us like it was before in the past with, well, my dad is this religion, so I'm this religion, and I go to church on Sundays or the mosque, or I do it like this. And so even within our faith, we get to be more responsible essentially to how do I get to show up for my faith? If I'm not going to, you know, go ahead and do what has been done in the past or choose a traditional religion, how can I then create a spiritual life for myself? And I think that all of these things is almost like a whole other job for us that we get to do, that we have the opportunity to do. It's a gift. And if we can see it like that, then we can be up to it. But if we're like, oh, I don't have time for any of that because, my life is so complicated, then we need it even more. Right? Then
Yeah,
we need it even
and it
more.
goes back to the old Stephen Covey, habits of success, right? The 7 habits thing. But I always love the analogy of you have a big mason jar, and you can, if you if you put the big rocks in first, you can fit lots of little rocks and sand and water. But if you put the small stuff in, you can't put the big rocks in. So the big rocks are the core things. And what is that? It's how do you make sure you're taking care of yourself, first of all, physically, mentally, spiritually. Those are the big rocks. Everything else will fit in. Your kids, your work, your spouse, your whatever, they'll all fit in if you put the big rocks in first. Now, they may be the next biggest rocks down, right? Your kids or whatever. Like they're obviously huge rocks. But if you don't put your rocks in, you're not there for them.
Yeah. That's that's I think what is getting turned on its head now. I think that we are just recognizing the damage we inflict on ourselves and everyone around us when we don't put our own face mask on first, essentially, or put those rocks to take care of ourselves first. And if we can think of it and give we're pleasure seekers. So okay, I want to give your listeners something practical here. If they're saying yes, I agree with you, Smoke. Okay, so how am I going to do that? We have to recognize that we're only going to do something if it's pleasurable, and we don't do something if it's not pleasurable. So we have to then decide to say, I'm going to have to associate the bad habit I have that is pleasurable in the short term with not pleasure, and then associate the thing that's going to give me the greater but later reward, but it's tough to do, right? In the middle of it, there is going to have to be associated with pleasure. And how do we do that, right? This is how Tony Robbins essentially made his billions, is essentially trying to teach this concept. So the thing that we want to recognize is, say it's at the end of the day, everyone's tired, they like to have their glass of wine and watch crappy TV for 3 hours before bed because I deserve it and I need my rest, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
But they know that, like, well, if I did some journaling and A Course in Miracles, and maybe if I listened to Smoke's podcast and did something, but I read Olivia's Spiritual Heartbeat book and did some meditation or some naked stretching, maybe I would have a better life. But how am I going to choose that when I'm feeling like crap at the end of the day? So part of what I'm wanting to share with people is that to make that leap, it's actually not as hard as we're making it. And I'm just as lazy as everybody else. I don't think I'm, crazy special. I know I'm special, but I'm not more special than anybody else. So if I can do it, I know everybody else who's listening can. To make that leap, what we want to do is to recognize the pain that it causes. You have to be willing to say, I am causing myself pain right now by drinking this wine and watching this TV. And I'm going to tell myself about all the negative effects that this is doing and all the life that I'm not living because I am choosing this route. And if I'm brave enough, how am I affecting all the people I love right now because I continue to choose this lazy thing, this low consciousness habit because I'm below the line of effectiveness. And really being able, if you can be brave enough to do that for like even 3 to 5 minutes, to say, and even write it to be like, I'm about to watch TV. I'm about to have a glass of wine. And here's all the ways it's keeping me stuck. And this is all the effect that I'm moody in the morning. And now my daughter sees that. And now, like, really seeing the ripple effect of that, you will change within a week, even if you do it. So even if you do all that and you're like, fuck it, sorry, I cussed on your podcast. Even if you're like, okay, never mind, I'm having my glass of wine, I'm watching my show, you would still most likely, if you really felt the negative side effects of that, you will actually shift. And here's the other piece. What will happen if I do this? That's the other part I would ask your listeners to do. Well, if I do this, I can be like this, and it would feel like this, and it would feel like this. So this is what you do for 3 to 5 minutes. You lay out those negative consequences. You lay out what will get to happen if you decide to shift. And if you can take just a little bit of time to recognize that, or have someone help you do that, like a coach or a friend or a wife or whatever. It doesn't, we're all coaches. You don't need to spend even that much. Just have a friend be like, tell me again, this and this, we are actually able to create a new habit by recognizing that we are pleasure seekers. Like, wow, this is going to get me that. This is going to get me this and this and this and this and this. Okay, I choose that. And that's the shift that we can make by just recognizing that hyperbolic discounting, the later but greater reward, essentially, is what we're going to have to pick in order to say, okay, I know that this habit that I do in addiction or distraction or numbing, or because I'm below the line, what actions would I choose if I was above the line? And then how am I going to do that? And what accountability will I need to create that? That's what we're up to.
That's really a practical, application of how to bring your conscious awareness to your activities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we say that, I mean, if you put your conscious on anything, a sickness, a problem, anything else, it will resolve itself. It does. But if we go through the motions unconsciously,
Mm-hmm.
it just stays in a pattern. So your example to me was like, oh, here's a practical way to bring consciousness to these activities, and then that drives choice, and it's I think we have choices at every moment in the day, all the time. We have less choices than people think they have, but we have always the choice of love and life, and the better. The rest of it's going through the motions, right? So yeah, I think taking that 3 to 5 minutes and writing the negative consequences of one activity and the positive consequences of another is bringing your awareness to it.
Exactly. And we don't have a chance without that awareness. And I think that that's the difference between I choose something and I commit to something. Because people can say, oh, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to go meditate and go to the gym. I choose that. But that's not the same as commitment. To make it where it's actually impossible, it's harder to do the thing that numbs me out than it is to do the thing that lifts me up. And what I mean by that is, what would I need to put in my space? So say I want to wake up and I want to go to the gym. That's the thing I'm wanting to do. And I might not. I might betray myself. Okay. I might like let myself off the hook because of something. If we are able to say, what would I need to have set up so that it's actually easier to get to the gym than it is to not? And you're courageous enough to say, well, it would need to be this, and I'm going to put that in place. That is commitment. Everything else, you're going to have a reason, you're going to have an excuse, you're going to have a sabotage, you're going to have a really, really good reason to not show up that many people will probably believe you, which is the dangerous part. There, you're like, oh, I couldn't do it. I was going to do that, but I couldn't. Oh, I understand. People are always understanding that betrayal, but that is actually not helpful, in my opinion. If we don't have those mirrors that says, well, how can I help you do that? It sounded like you really wanted to do that last week and you didn't do it. How can I help
Yeah.
you? I want to be able to help you do that. What do you need to move into choosing to committing? That's the level of accountability and radical responsibility that will allow you to choose that later but greater reward that gets you what you want.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it applies to everything, right? Your living space. I don't care if you're in an apartment in a city or you're in a beautiful uh, mountainous resort, spiritual community, setting things up where it's easy to meditate. You have a spot for it. You have your own little altar. You have and you just build your routine, having the Dead Sea salt by the bath so that it's just like, oh, you have that, right? And all these different things that you can do that are positive, healthy snacks in the house, not having a bunch of crap. I mean, my weakness is I love ice cream, and I'm never not going to have ice cream, but
Mhm.
I don't need to have all the best ice cream all the time
Yeah.
in my freezer. So,
Yeah, yeah. And so you set up your environment for success, right?
yeah.
That's the key. They have that analogy like, get your clothes out the morning before to set yourself up to go to the gym or something or whatever it is. But we often need a lot of things in place to change. And I don't want to, with your audience, minimize how much we might need. But if I know for me, I need a lot. So I need to know what song am I going to, am I going to play right when I wake up? What is my breakfast going to be? What am I wearing? How can I have some accountability to this new task? Like really get clear on how can I make this as enjoyable as possible to step
Hmm.
into this new habit. If we can meet it like that and not just say, well, I'm just lazy, I'm not as I'm not as disciplined as Olivia or Smoke, because it doesn't have to do with motivation. It doesn't even have to do with discipline. It's just actually recognizing that I am committed to doing this and I know it's going to suck for a short amount of time. But if I can be okay with it not being as exciting as numbing out or staying in bed or whatever, but I'm committed to this, just like people commit to their KPIs. I see people over and over and over again committing to their contribution bucket, their work, in ways where I'm like, God, if you apply just even 20% of that to you, dude, you'd be unstoppable. Let's go, you know?
Yeah,
So that's the space that I know people have it in them, especially your listeners, because they're applying it in one of the buckets of life for sure. And if they
for
can
sure.
apply it over here, it is makes them explode. And I get to see that every day. So I'm optimistic. You know, that's the work I do. So I see people making mundane things into miracles all the time. But it is something that is possible. It's not impossible, I would say, for anyone. I actually think when you have people believing in you and being human medicine for you until you learn how to do it yourself, it can happen. And it doesn't
Yeah, I
even,
mean, if you're listening to this, you're already at a certain level, right? I mean, I think it's not impossible. The beautiful thing about the earth and humanity is like it's perfect purgatory. It's hell and heaven on earth in the same place, and anyone can transcend the levels of consciousness, but your odds are much lower at certain levels. And so if you're, listening to this, you're probably in the, you're probably, you've got certain checks, like you've already mastered things at work, or, and it's uneven, but right. But you've got things where you've shown the ability to do this. Anyone can, if you really choose to do something, you can do it. But you have to set yourself up for success, right? You can't just be like, I'm going to do that, and then you go back to your old habits.
yeah, yeah. And I think that that's also too, like you said, it is something that if you can recognize how far you've come, being able to celebrate, wow, I've checked a lot of boxes, like I'm really doing good at here. I'm doing good in here. How can I cross train some of those skill sets to what we're talking about today with my self-care, my spiritual practices, my um, being able to not just like, in my opinion, stay at a level of consciousness. It's not so much of, oh, now I'm enlightened. It's more about, what is my recovery? Do I notice when I'm below the line of effectiveness? Do I notice when I'm not in a powerful state? Do I have that awareness? And then how quickly can I shift? And do I even have a choice or not, or just in reactivity? And I think that is the work, essentially, is our recovery time. Okay. It's just
Yeah,
like, can I regulate and respond appropriately with wisdom in this moment, even though it doesn't meet my preference and there's friction? And that is, I think, the game of life. How well are you playing the game of life is your recovery time. And if you can have a very quick recovery time, you win the game, because not many people can do that.
yeah,
So,
and again, there's like lots of little ways, but like just getting to gratitude. Well, what does that mean? Well, just even if you don't feel like you're in gratitude, just start saying thank you. Like, just say thank you. If you say thank you to yourself for an hour straight, you can't help but be in gratitude. If you do it every day, you're in gratitude. And it's like, we all have ego minds that will judge, right? So like, if I ever catch myself, seeing, I see someone out, and I'm like, and I start, that judgment starts to come in. I'm like, I just start, saying, peace be with you, bless you, thank you, I love you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and I'm like, I get out of it right away. But it's like it's a practice, because you got to like head off your ego mind quickly.
right. Like for you, if you just said probably thank you, probably even 5 times, 3 times, you might be able to access that energy and that vibe of that, where some of us might need a little bit more reserve or something, right? But I think you're bringing up something really powerful. It is my favorite prayer. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my God, thank you. How wonderful this life that I get to live again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, more, please. Thank you is another one. Yes, I see. I heard you. More, please. Thank you. That being able to just walk around your day and being able to have that in the background of your mantra has been a way for me to build up my reserves so that in needed when there's friction, I can tap into that thank you, and then it's right there. It's accessible. Like I can just
Yeah.
grab it, right?
Yeah. And sometimes I'll add in like, thank you. And what am I supposed to learn from this?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. What am I supposed to learn from this? So something like goes wrong. I don't know, like even like an injury, like I stubbed my toe on the side of a thing or whatever, and it was like very painful. And I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. What was it to learn from this? And by the time I'm done with that little thing, the pain's gone. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah. And you usually get an answer. I think that that's huge too, because you could have just cursed in that moment and be like, oh, why is that, and just got all aggravated. But your go-to is thank you, and then what is here for me to know is my version of
yeah,
that. What is here for me to know? And usually I get an answer that's very direct and maybe something I don't even want to hear, which is like, slow down, like you're doing too much, like
yeah.
take a seat, like sit down for a second, have some tea, you're dehydrated, drink water. Like it's really specific. It's gotten to very specific things where I'm getting that direction. And I think that that is what I mean by having that divine access, being able to know intuitive wisdom quickly enough to pivot and know when you're on the bumps on the side of the road to not ignore them and then go off your road, right? So
And that's really what spiritual heartbeat does, right? It really is a guidebook, roadmap, to reconnect with our higher self, which is something that is with us all the time anyway, but we aren't listening all the time. And so if you can quiet the mind down and be present, answers come, what you should do comes. And for some of us, it's like, direct messages. For some of it'll just be what gives you energy. Is engaging in doing this does it uplift you? Do you feel energy about it? If so, that's your higher self saying do that. It's like, excitement is an important part of it. It's in, what brings you the excitement.
yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, Smoke, because everybody feels or hears their intuition in a different way. And so, like you heard me say, I hear words, messages, and feel it in my body as well at the same time. And it's very clear. It's like, this is the right thing to do. And often I share with people, my intuition is often telling me things I don't want to do, but this is the right thing to do because my ego's in the way or my personality, right? And so, but I do think that our intuition is felt or heard in different ways. And so part of the teaching is, do you know the difference between your ego, your fear, and your intuition? Like, where are my yeses and nos? Like you're saying,
Yeah.
Where is that yes and no? And you can build that up, by the way. So one of the things that you can do for practical reasons, just so we don't stay in the head in this podcast, like let's practice this, is to have your listeners at the end of the day, a way to build up your intuitive knowing is at the end of the day, take a moment to scan. Like a way to do this is scan the day and scan where there was tension or expansion, contraction or expansion, or where was another way to say it is your yeses and your nos. And to understand that all of the times where there might have been a contraction, a place, is not bad. It's just another way to get information.
Yeah.
And for us to recognize, well, oh, that's interesting. There's a pattern here. If you do it even for a week, you're going to notice more about yourself, about how your intuition talks to you. And then how are you responding or not, or aware of that information? And that is such a beautiful practice that we can cultivate. It takes literally, I do it every night. It takes just a couple of minutes to just have a moment to say, how did that go? Where was it hard? Where was it easy? And where was it joyful? Because I think that is if I can be so bold, that is our natural state, is joy.
Yeah.
And if we can recognize, well, where was I not joy? Where was I not being love? That is information for us so we can know where our patterns might be, or where we can recognize, oh, my intuition might have been trying to say something to me. Let me slow it down a little bit. I wonder what it is. And you can just ask, what was divine wisdom in this moment? What was the divine information in that moment? What was for me? Who was I meant to talk to, or where was I meant to go, or what was I meant to do then? You can actually get information if you're courageous enough to ask and quiet enough to listen. And that is my hope for people, that they have that access, because we need it more than ever now. And it's important for us to all be able to have that divine wisdom, not just a few of us who decided that it was important. We all get to have that.
Well, you're doing beautiful work, Liv, and I think Spiritual Heartbeat is, anybody that's listening to this, it's a must read. You should get on it, join her community, and the cool thing is, because I get this a lot, right? Because there's a lot of mayhem in the world. It's the cleansing. When I wanted peace and love, the things that were in the way of that came up in my journey, my shadows I had to clear. That's what's happening in the world right now. There's a lot of activities, a lot of institutions have lost trust. Lots of things are happening. That's Don't worry about that. What if we each of us that wakes up, that gets our own house in order, that gets our big rocks first, outweighs tens of millions of people who are not woken up. So like it doesn't need to be an elite few, but it doesn't need to be the world. It's like actually a pretty small number that's the tipping point to continue to raise the Earth's vibration. And I think everyone reading your book will be on that path to helping the world in the most important way, which is by helping themselves.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Smoke. That's exactly what this is about. And to recognize, when are we becoming a part of the problem, because we are so reactive to the problem, right? And I think that is, we're either a part of the problem or we're not. I don't think there's an in between. And so to recognize, oh, because I'm so upset at this and I've been watching the news for 5 hours, now I am a part of the problem, because I'm actually in the same hatred energy of othering that I am viewing right now. And
Yep.
so being able to just recognize, that's part of radical responsibility, to say, oh yeah, I can just choose again. We all have the opportunity to begin again, and we don't need to be perfect beings. We get to just catch when we are out of alignment and come back to that true self. And that is my hope for the book, to help people do that faster. That is my hope, that we can all do that in community and find ways that we can be human medicine for ourselves as much as we possibly can.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
it's so great having you back. I'll put links to the book and the Be Human Medicine app and all that kind of stuff in the show notes. And
Amazing.
it's awesome to see you, Liv.
Thank you so much, Smoke, for having me here. It's such a pleasure always to talk to you and be in space with you.
Awesome. Thank you.